Ryuji Otogi. 7th place in the domino qualifier might have been a respectable showing, but Otogi's father only cared that he'd lost to Yugi Muto. Furious, Mr. Clown threw his son out on the streets. Desperate, Otogi devised a rash plan to swipe Grandpa Moto's weekly card shipment. But as he hid in the shadows, he overheard Sugoroku talking about a trip to Pegasus's island. Of course, Sugoroku must be planning a deal with Pegasus. If Otogi could disrupt this deal, perhaps his father would finally be proud of him. But first, Otogi did steal one of the card shipments, and in it he found a powerful new boss monster. Otogi tailed Sugoroku to the airport and stowed away in the plane's cargo deck during a cramped flight to Pegasus's private island. Without even a concrete plan, he snuck past Pegasus's guards and slipped into the castle's conference room just as Sugoroku and Pegasus entered. From his hiding spot behind a velvet curtain, Otogi only managed to hear bits and pieces of their conversation before suddenly the air grew cold. And then Sugoroku let out an agonizing scream. What Otogi heard next made his blood turn to ice. "I'll be out in a minute," came Pegasus's musical voice. "I just need to deal with a little mouse." Pegasus drew back the curtain with a theatrical flourish. Pain exploded behind Otogi's eyes, as if his very thoughts were being ripped apart. Pegasus's eye gleamed, reading him in his entirety. "Oh, the things you've done to get here," Pegasus said with mocking admiration. "You remind me of myself when I was younger, trying to impress people who can't be impressed." He smiled thinly. Then, Pegasus made an unlikely offer. Ensuring Yugi's defeat in the tournament was one of Pegasus's top priorities, so he told Otogi that he would give him one more chance to defeat Yugi by allowing him to join the Duelist Kingdom tournament later that month. But there was a catch. Accommodations were tight, after all. So, unfortunately, Otogi's quarters would be underground. Pegasus's words trailed off into a chuckle as Otogi lost consciousness. Otogi awoke in a dark cell, his wrists chained to the wall. After hours that blurred into days, he noticed someone across the aisle of cells. Sugoroku Muto, shackled in a similar cell. "It must be nice being you," Otogi snapped across the cell block. Sugoroku blinked in surprise, then gave a small nod. "Sometimes, I suppose," Sugoroku replied with a slight smile. "I can't say the dungeon's my usual scene, though." Otogi scowled. "You've humiliated my father. Do you have any idea what it's like to live in someone's shadow?" Sugoroku sighed. "Oh, Ryuji, your father has been in business for years. He has many happy and loyal customers." "Easy for you to say," Otogi muttered bitterly. "Your shops never had to struggle. And now, because of you, I'm stuck here alone and..." His voice faltered as he realized just how alone he truly felt. "I'm sorry, Ryuji," Sugoroku said softly. "But this isn't about me. I've never driven anyone out of the market. Your father's store does quite well. But because of his ambition and his pain, he's never learned to be happy and settle for the life that he has." Over the next few days, Sugoroku shared humbling tales of failures from his own past. As they talked, Otogi found himself relaxing, even confessing his own frustrations and dreams. Sugoroku listened without judgment, nodding at each misstep, reminding Otogi that every failure was just another lesson. On the 3rd day, Otogi finally voiced what had been gnawing at him since he'd awoken in the dungeon. "I only wanted to make him proud." Sugoroku leaned forward, his eyes wise and kind. "Being driven to prove yourself to someone else is like having a chain around your heart, Ryuji. You have your own path. Don't let your father's dream bind you. Otogi felt the weight of those words. He understood, finally, that he didn't want his father's dream. He wanted his own. And he resolved to pursue it once they found their way out of Pegasus's dungeon. I stole your cards, Otogi finally muttered, guiltily. Sugoroku chuckled from across the cell, his laugh warm and unexpected. Well then, you've got a debt to repay. Keep them, and use them to win this tournament and get me the hell out of here. When the cell door creaked open and Pegasus's men finally came for him, Otogi cast one last look at Sugoroku. The old man had given him more than just a handful of cards. He'd handed him a purpose, a reason to play beyond pride or revenge. His path was clear. He'd fight in the tournament to help Yugi rescue his grandpa, and then he would forge his own way. Mai Kujaku, the American runner-up. Before she became a top duelist, Mai Kujaku was a high-stakes gambler with a knack for reading people and an even sharper instinct for taking them for everything they had. She spent years navigating dimly lit casinos, every night the same faces, wealthy, arrogant men who thought they were in control. And while her gambling started as a way to make ends meet, it soon became something of a twisted art form. She took a dark satisfaction in fooling those who dismissed or objectified her, turning their arrogance against them. In her mind, each win was proof that she was in control of her life, of her future, and of the odds. To Mai, trust is a fool's errand, and depending on people is an unforgivable weakness. When Mai was 13, her family hit rock bottom. Her mother's illness made it difficult to hold down a job, and her father's absence loomed larger every day. Desperation pushed Mai to fall in with a group of teens who ran shady card games outside the local pool hall. Their leader, a silver-tongued older boy, took Mai under his wing, teaching her the ropes of card games and street hustle. Under his guidance, she earned enough to support her mother, each win filling her with pride. But one night, he set her up against a notorious local shark, a man with a short temper and a long memory for debts. With his encouragement, she pushed her luck, winning hand after hand. She felt invincible, until her winning streak took a deadly turn. Her friend had rigged the game against her, and in an instant, her pile of winnings turned into a life-threatening debt, and her loving mentor had conveniently vanished. With a bitter shame, Mai had no choice but to ask her older cousin Haruko for help. When Mai arrived, defeated and empty-handed, Haruko could barely mask her glee. A horrible, vain woman, Haruko relished the chance to exert control over Mai, and for months Mai was left cleaning Haruko's house, running errands, and performing menial tasks, all while enduring her cousin's passive-aggressive jabs. Mai worked in silence, her pride suffocating beneath the weight of her humiliation. That was the moment she swore off ever relying on anyone again. The memory of the boy's easy smile is a constant reminder that trust can be as dangerous as any gamble. She vowed never to feel that weak again. And over time, she clawed her way up from the bottom, building a name for herself as a legend in the underworld. Last she heard, Haruko Chono was barely scraping by. Meanwhile, Mai stands on the precipice of the first ever International Duel Monsters Championship, where she is ready to stake her claim as the greatest in the world. Rebecca Hawkins, an American semi-finalist. Rebecca Hawkins is here for one reason: to take down and expose the nefarious Seto Kaiba for the criminal that he is. Her grandfather, Arthur Hawkins, recently vanished without a trace while on an excavation in Egypt. The locals have few answers, but one detail stands out. Seto Kaiba was the last to see Arthur alive. Under the cloak of night, Kaiba cornered him, pressed him into a duel, and by morning walked away with Arthur's prized Blue Eyes White Dragon card. No one knows what Kaiba promised or threatened to make Arthur agree, but by the time dawn broke, Arthur was gone. Rebecca took his deck, and on the long flight back to America, made a decision. She was going to enter the International Championship, face Seto Kaiba, and make him answer for his crimes. She will force him to admit on live TV exactly what he's done with her grandfather. Diesel Kane of the Diesel Kane Denizens, the Domino City runner-up. Diesel Kane is on top of the world. The Denizens threw everything they had into Duel Monsters, and Diesel stunned the world by taking down the world's greatest. And now, corporate sponsors have been scrambling to get their logo on his back. The Denizens are no longer a gang from the Domino slums. They're a team, a legitimate outfit in the eyes of the corporate elite, with young hopefuls clamoring to join the ranks. The qualifier taught Diesel a valuable lesson. Only suckers get caught up trying to be the best. For Diesel, success in the dueling world is a key to something greater: money, status, and power. And as far as he's concerned, the number 2 slot has done all that and more. Diesel had considered the offer from the American to join his team, but he knew that play. It was a way to assert dominance early, a pattern that would surely continue throughout the relationship. Nah, the Denizens were his crew, loyal to him. He'd built his empire from the ground up, brick by brick, and he didn't plan to hand over control just to ride someone else's wave. But that decision came at a price. He's taking on Duelist Kingdom alone today, as none of the other Denizens were able to make it to the island. No matter. Today's objective is simple: keep up the performance, do well enough to secure a spot in the Pro League, and make sure the cash flow stays strong. Diesel's here to play the long game, and he's not about to let some empty title or fairy tales about magic items distract him from building his empire.